Hi there, in this tutorial I want to take you through using Advanced Skeleton for rigging a character and also NGSkin Tools for skin weight painting. Now you want to download these, go to Advanced Skeleton, download, and it will give you a zip folder which you unzip and you put it in your local Maya directory where your documents are, so it's always going to be there, and follow the instructions to install. Similar to NGSkin Tools, you literally drag and drop it into Maya and it will always be there. So follow the instructions for those. Let's get started. So here I've got a basic avatar that I got from Avatar, and I've changed the pose just to show you the kind of pose that I like, because some poses are T-pose, some are A-pose, and if we make clothing then we can always easily transfer those things. I'm just going to show you how to use Advanced Skeleton on a character like this. So I've imported this and I just want to check the scale of it first. So I'm going to go to poly modeling and bring in the cube. Now this is a centimeter based units. So if I scale on Y 170, it should be approximately the size of the character, which it is. So we're all good there. So I'm just going to rename this to our male, and make sure all the transforms look like this, and your pivot is 0 here, and so on. Okay, so with Advanced Skeleton, you can see I've got this tab here. I'm just going to click on the A to get started. You can do all this stuff here like model clean and model check if you want. So I recommend clicking that because it will do some things. So you can do clean or whatever, but I think it's good, so just click create, and this just puts your geometry into a little group. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to open up this fit tab. So if you don't see that, it's under body here and then fit, and we're going to use a biped, so you want to import that. Okay, and it gives you this here. Now if you just control the, if you select this blue controller, fit skeleton, and scale it up. Scale it up until it roughly matches your character. Bear in mind it won't actually be the perfect T-pose right now, but that's no big deal. Okay, I'm going to do X-ray joints just to see this a bit better. A good rule of thumb is to get the collarbone to match, and everything else we can work on those. Okay, once that's done, we want to start to manipulate these joints. Now I recommend using fit mode. That just means if you move a joint, then it will update the joint orientations. So for example, if I move this down, it will automatically update this joint as if you rotated from here, and that's really important. Okay, so I'm just going to eyeball these into position, and it's a good idea to start from the root. If you don't start from the root, don't worry, you can press D and move that way and it will still update. Press D again to come out of that mode. So I recommend using rotate and also local rotation, so you can right click and do control shift and right click and do object or component, and you get a local axis. If that doesn't work, you can also go into custom, and I think it's parent that you actually want to use. Just undo that because I think I pressed something. Okay, so make sure you've got the fit mode on. It should show up here as fit mode, and get everything into place. It's a good idea to keep the arm pretty straight as well. This just means that you'll get a correct pull vector at the back of the elbow. So again, just starting from the root, roughly where the joint is in the human body. If you are selecting the mesh by accident, With the mesh selected, click on this one here. Okay, sorry, not that one. Click on the mesh and click on the rightmost one, and you can actually, interesting. Yeah, so you click on the one with the ball. I don't need these, so I'll just delete that layer. Okay, I'll just show you that again. So click on the mesh, click on the one with the little ball in it, and that way you can hide, or you can turn it into R, or reference, which means you won't accidentally select it anymore. If you aren't in fit mode and you want to update this joint, you can click update now, and that will also work, but fit mode's kind of recommended, so that you don't actually need to click fit every time, or update now every time. You can also use the up and down arrow keys to go up and down the joint hierarchy. Take a bit of time to do the fingers, just think about where the joint actually moves. Having the texture on there is actually a good way of telling, like that dark spot there is where that joint is rotating from. So the rotation point is the middle of the ball here. And then this end one just sits at the tip. Make sure to check it from different angles, just to make sure that you're not just doing it in one direction. You think it's good, but then when you check it side on, it's not quite lining up. This one's mostly good. You can also change the joint size here, if it helps. So just observe the different tabs. If they're not open, just be sure to open those. It's going to make a slight arc with the fingers. I want to make sure that they deform correctly. Okay, that should do the hand. Because I've done the arm, if I move this, the whole arm's going to move. So just be sure to press D if you just want to change that particular joint. When you press D, you'll get a little yellow square. Okay, now we do the leg. It's recommended when you're doing the leg just to rotate from here until the ankle's in place, because you don't want the pole vector to go off at an angle. We can use this red vector here, the forward vector, to fix this position, and this one to move it back, but don't move it this way because you'll get this directional change, and that's what causes the pole vector to move the wrong way. So I'm just going to go up to the hip here and just rotate a little bit more. You can see this ankle joint here, that's roughly where you want this to be, in between both. Alright, we can rotate the foot now. I'm just going to move these roughly until they touch each side. Not that important, I think they just help for the skinning, the automatic skinning. Right. So that's more or less done. Be sure to save your project. So we just call this demo. Okay, so with that done, we want to build our advanced skeleton. So under the build tab, just under edit, we've got build advanced skeleton. So click that. Now you'll see it's made a whole lot of controllers and also a whole lot of bones, more so than we actually need. So I'm going to do toggle advanced skeleton, and I'm going to go to each of these joints, and where it says in between joints, reduce this to 0. You have it on these two joints. I think also you have it on the neck joint here. The upper arm has twist joints. I'm going to make that 0 as well. I want a very simple rig. Go to the upper leg, twist joint 0, and the lower leg I think is fine. So it's just the spine joints, the neck, the upper arm and lower arm. These are twist joints, and everything else is in between. So once you've done that, you can rebuild it. I'm going to save as increment with Control Alt S. Okay, so we've got this rig now. The rig works. Okay, and you've got control of the fingers here. If you choose this, you can choose all of these and middle mouse drag, and you'll see the joints move. You also have this plus icon. If you change this to 10, it means you're using full IK control. And this is the pole vector I'm talking about for the elbow. Okay, you have a similar thing for the leg. By default, it's in IK mode. So you can move this around, and you can move these pole vectors. Now if these are way off to the side for you, look back at the video, you'll see how I talked about keeping the leg straight. Rotate the leg from the hip joint until the ankle's in place. Don't try to do individual joints. You can see how the elbow's a bit lower down than the back of it. It's no big deal really, just be mindful of maybe these being crossing over. Can be a bit more annoying then. Right, so this is all working so far, but we still have to skin the mesh. So what you want to do is, I'm going to take this out of reference mode just to make sure selects. You can select the deform joints, shift select the mesh, and we can go to a rigging and skin, bind skin. These are the kind of options I like to begin with. So selected joints, geodesic voxel, classic linear, interactive, distance, and everything else I think Maya's remembered from last time. So you can click apply or bind skin. Okay, and now we should have skin mesh. Okay, you see there's IK here, and we can switch that off by putting this back to 0. That means we've just got FK control. Right, the skin weights are pretty decent, but they need a bit of work, like here. So let's save it. So save as increment, Control Alt S, and I'm going to choose all the controllers. So if you go further down, you can see display motion system. So if you hide that, it hides all the controllers, or show, hide the joints, or show. Okay, that's all we really need is these. The mesh I'm going to put back into reference mode, and now I'm just going to hide the joints, like so, and I'm going to select everything. So it's just going to select basically the controllers, because the mesh is in reference means I can't select it, and I've hidden the actual joints. I'm going to press S to keyframe all of those and move to frame 20. Choose a control you want to work with. So I'm going to move it up like so. Move the shoulder up as well. So I really just want to fix the skin weights for the arm here. Okay, so there's different things we can do. We can play with the skin weights again. Back to 0. We can rebind this, or we can use NGSkin Tools. So I'm going to take this out of reference mode, choose the mesh, and you can see I've got the NGSkin Tools tab here because I've already installed it. Okay, so I want to click this initialize skinning layers. So I'll make sure I'm in frame 0 just when I do that. Okay, move to frame 20, and now we can see what's going on. Okay, I'm going to expand this a little bit more. Now I'm just going to look for the arm. So it's actually called shoulder with advanced scaling. Shoulders from here to the elbow, and elbows down to the wrist here. So if I do shoulder R, and then click paint, you can see these skin weights. Now I like to use the grayscale mode, and you can see how that looks. Okay, so I just want to fix this skin weight here. There's different things I can do. I can do scale, sharpen, smooth, right? So I choose smooth and click flood. You can see how it's smoothed out everything, but it's grabbed a whole lot of weight here. We can try sharpen and flood, same idea. We can add weights. Okay, it's added all the verts to that particular joint. Okay, so there's different things we can do. We could choose the smooth brush. In fact, I'm also going to pick the, I think it's the chest, because that's one of the weights that I want to influence here. And I'm going to do add a small value, hold down B and right click, right drag, and we'll get this brush. And let's see, I'm on the chest, so I want to add paint. So I'm going to add a small intensity to this here, right? But why is it painting out, you ask yourself? So we're actually so we're on add mode, and we want to add this value, and you can see 3 influences limit, so we get more ability. So that's probably why it did that. You can use shift to smooth as well. You see, I can smooth some of that weight out. Okay, I'm going to replace the value of 1 there, just to make sure it's got skin weight on it. Right, then I can smooth it out. I think it was just missing any skin weights. I'll just do the same the other side. Instead of doing the same the other side, you can actually mirror and just look at the axis down here. where it's red, the red dash, that's positive, and the other side is negative. We've been working on the negative side, so it's negative to positive, and you just want to click mirror, and you can see how it's mirrored those weights. So I'm just using smooth. The good thing about NGSkin Tools is the smoothing is very fast and very efficient compared to Maya's default skinning. Okay, so I'm just going to go to shoulder R, and to take away I can use Control to take some of this away, and then Shift to smooth. Alright, so that's pretty much the upper arm done to begin with. I can see some weights are being distributed up here, so I'm just going to smooth them out. In fact, if I type in neck, I can also see the neck joint and smooth it out here. I'll do a little mirror on that. And let's see if clavicle comes up. It might be called collar. If you're not sure what it's called, just have a look at the hierarchy. Scapula. So there's a different naming convention here that you might have to get used to. So I'm just choosing that particular joint and then adding some weight and smoothing it out. Just I need to add some influence first. So that explains why we couldn't do anything with this to begin with. So even adding just a small value with a small brush, then smooth it. That will help alleviate some problems. You see how I'm smoothing this out and it's making it darker, which means it's a softer weight. And I'm just going to go to mirror and mirror that as well. Okay, I'm going to type in elbow R, and in order to check the weight of this I need to actually move the joint. So I'm going to choose all of these again. Let's put this back into reference mode. Choose all of these, okay, and shift drag over the keyframe. So I'm just shift dragging over. I'm going to right click and do delete, and that will just go back to default there. I'm going to save this, Control Alt S, and carry on with that. So click the mesh. Okay, we've got our elbow R here. Now I forgot to do something. I'm going to choose this controller, move to frame 20 and just rotate it like this. Okay, and I'm going to move the timeline. You can see how this rotating is pulling some of the arm up here. So to see that in detail we have to click the mesh and elbow R, click on paint, then the paint button here. And we can see there's some influence up here. I'm just going to use Control to paint this out. So I'm going to hold down B, big brush, paint all of this out, all around here. We shouldn't have any influence up here with that controller. Okay, go back to frame 0 and add some weight to this section just to make sure it holds properly. So add small value or large value just to make sure it paints in there. Right, and then drag it over. You can see how it's a bit better. Shift and click just to smooth it out a bit. And then Control to take some away. Shift to smooth it out. You can see you can gradually get to a point where it's looking nice. And you see there's 3 different options: surface, volume and screen. Volume will be round about the brush image, so you see this red circle, volume's going to capture all that, whereas surface will likely be around about where you're touching the mesh, and screen will just project right through to the back. Okay, so surface is likely the one that you'll use. Okay, so that's done. I just want to show you the magic of the other side, so just choose this controller, rotate, go to frame 20 as well, and rotate here. Now you can see it's automatically keyframing for me because I do have automatic keyframing on. If you go down to the bottom right here, you can see this icon. Whenever you make a change to a controller, it's going to auto keyframe it. You don't have to press S all the time. Right, so you can see the difference here. This is without the skin weights fixed, and that's with it fixed. So all we have to do is to mirror that. So choose the mesh and elbow R. It doesn't really matter what you're on, you just have to go to mirror and click mirror. Let's have a look at how this updates. And there you go. Looks good. Okay, so that's how you would test every part. Okay, so I'm going to choose all the controllers. Make sure I just put this in reference mode so I don't choose it by accident. Choose all of these. And now I'm just going to shift drag over these keyframes and delete. Save it. Control Alt S always. That way you're keeping a backup. Okay, whatever frame you want to go to, it doesn't really matter. I like frame 20 or 30. Depending what I'm doing. So I'm going to move the foot IK controller here. I'm just going to bring it up on this plane, which is these two axes, like so. You can see a lot of strange things happening. You can see these joints are actually pulling some stuff here, and also what's going on here, it's all flattening out. So we just want to move this to a point where it's natural but kind of extreme. Okay, and that's keyframed, so we can see that by moving the timeline. And then we're going to choose the mesh, and this is actually going to be, I think it's called hip R. So hip R is actually the thigh joint. The naming is to be desired, I suppose, but anyway, we'll work with it. Go to paint mode. Right, you can see there's a whole lot of weight on this here. So I'm gonna do replace 0, start painting, paint all this stuff out. Now this is the hip R joint in this. I'm actually going to change it to screen because I want it to project right through. Right, there's a whole lot happening on the lower leg as well, so let's see what that's called. So if we go to hip, it's actually called knee. Okay, so it's kind of from the knee down, from the hip down, from the knee down, from the ankle down. That's how the naming kind of works. So if I do knee R and get rid of that, see how that's already fixed, that leg. There's a whole lot of pulling going on in the waist here. So I'm going to go to hip R and make my brush a bit smaller and paint all this out. And change this to surface. It's a bit smooth on these just to fix them up a bit more. Okay, so this is the hip R. I don't want it to affect all down here as well. So I'll paint all this out. Let's change the screen again. Smooth it all out. Okay, now I want to add some weight in here, so I'm going to add a bit of weight for hip R back in here. I give it a lot of weight to begin with, then I'll smooth it out later. Let's change the surface. I don't want to, as you can see, I've been accidentally projecting through. That can easily happen if you forget like me, to come out of this screen mode. So surface is kind of the easiest way not to make mistakes. Just turn the grid off to make it clearer. A little bit of smoothing here and there. Add some weight, a bit of smoothing. There will be some fighting with different weights pulling at stuff. Don't worry, just do as much work as you can, and just you'll come across the problems later. Right, so that's all good. Sort of. It could be better, but let's just look at how that's affected the other side when we do mirror. So I'm just going to save it there, Control-Alt-S, and move to frame 20, and take this controller and move it up as well, so you can see, okay, not very nice. It doesn't matter where you put this, you can see how it's pulling some weight here as well. Okay, I'm just going to click on the mesh, paint. In fact, you don't need paint, you need mirror, and mirror that. You can see how it's fixed it somewhat. There's some areas that need to be fixed still. So hip R, paint, and let's fix some of this. So let's add some weight here. Right, I'm not going to use smooth just yet. I want to just get some good weights on these first, then I'll smooth it after I've done the mirroring. So knee R, let's get some of the back of this leg here. I'm going to take away any influence from here by holding down Control, because I can see it's pulling at some things. You can see this here, that's probably the hip R. See when it goes grey? And as soon as I start using Control, I'm fixing all that, right? All this stuff up here, everything. So I don't want any of this side affected by that side's joints. Okay, it's good enough for now. Now I'm going to use mirror mode and click mirror, and you can see actually doesn't matter if you're on frame 0, there's some weights been painted here. Now that tells me that some of these verts don't know where they belong. They're just kind of defaulting to some other weight. So I need to now navigate to the spine joint. So oops, let's actually choose the mesh and type in spine and paint, and you can see how the spine one is run about here, right where this controller is. There's actually root as well. Okay, I keep choosing the wrong thing, as you probably would. So make sure you choose the mesh and just type it in here. So root, and put the root there, click paint, and you can see this is where a lot of the weights are held. Now to stop the legs having an influence over this, we just paint more into the root, right, and that's going to hold all this better because there's more weight assigned to that root joint. Okay, I'm just going to smooth that out a bit here and there, and smooth it here a bit. So when you're smoothing, it's actually assigning the weight between any known joints to each vert. It's giving some of that weight back to that other joint. Okay, you can try mirror in the mode in this mode with you can try do mirroring with the root bone. I don't think it works as well, but we can try it anyway. Yeah, it seems to be okay. Okay, and maybe you want some of the groin area to be assigned to the root, but you can see how it's not having a great effect. It's pulling it too much. Okay, let's have a look at that again. It's a lot better. Okay, the legs are a bit more stable. There's still a little bit poking through there, so I'm just going to go to knee R. And you can see for this knee R, there's still influence here, so control and paint that out. Make the brush nice and big. I'm going to use volume so we get more. It's a little bit slower. Let's do hip R. Let's go back to surface, it's much faster. Right, so all I really want is for this to be nicer, right? So hip R, paint that out here, make the brush smaller, using control to get rid of that, add some in there again. I just want this to be a bit tighter when it deforms. Okay. So for knee R, paint some of this in. If the smoothing's too strong, switch to smoothing and change the intensity or iterations. It just means it's going to be a bit slower and easier to keep an eye on. Okay, let's try the mirror. You can see some fixes there, but also there's still some rogue weights getting in here. So let's see, knee L, hip L. Let's make sure we got good solid weight on this. Right, and make sure we paint all this out. Now I've worked on this side now, so when I do the mirroring, I want to change the direction, positive to negative, and mirror. You can see some other stuff happening there. That always seems to happen when there's weights on the other side. And if you can't really fix it with mirroring, then just do it manually. But I would do all the manual fixing at the very end. Mirroring can be handy. So anytime you use mirror, it's going to mirror all the joints. Okay, I'm not happy about the deformation here, so I'm going to change the hip R. Let's change that to negative to positive and work on this area a bit more. Just so that it's not stretching as much. Okay, and up here is obviously a problem, so hip R and smooth some of this out. It's always going to be a battle in this area, how much verts you want to pull. It's kind of up to you. I'd say try and just go a bit less as it gets close to the hips. Smooth all this out. We've been working on negative to positive, so mirror that and we'll get the fixes there. Okay, that's good enough for this stage. I'm going to save it. Let's go to the root and paint in a little bit more here and here. Smooth that out. I want to make sure it holds that area a bit better. You can see how it's holding it a bit too much, but as soon as I smooth it out, it's going to fix it. Let's see, spine 1, which I think is kind of like the mid area here, right? And then chest is higher up. Right, and then smooth it out. So when you use smooth, you have to be mindful that you're going to reassign some values back to something else, like the chest or the spine here. So you have to be just be cautious with it. It tends to do this when you've got a set number of influences. Right, let's go for mirror. Okay, so we need to actually move some joints here to see this properly, so I'm going to save it. Let's put this back into reference. Doesn't really matter because the only thing it's keyframed is the joints anyway, so just delete those. And I'm going to choose this controller here, move to frame 20, drag this down. Okay, and we can rotate it forward and back. You can see this is pretty good so far. Okay, got an extra controller here, which is the FK root. Alright, I'm just going to move that a bit as well, and this one forward, and actually I'm going to move it back as well. And same with this one, I'm just going to move it back a bit here. You can actually move it as well, just a fraction. Right, and forward. Just going to bring it this way, just to make it look a little bit realistic pose. Right, so the forward and back is good. Let's just check the side to side. You can see how I'm deliberately rotating on a set axis here. I don't want to just move things around, I want to do things methodically so that I understand better what's happening. Okay, just have a look around it, and the best way to check it is with the wireframe on, so I'm just going to put this out a reference and choose that. And just look for any odd stretching between vertices. I think that's mostly good. Okay, so I'll just choose everything. Choose all the keyframes and delete. And save that. Okay, so the last thing to check is the neck and the head. So we can find the neck here, it'll be root, spine, chest, neck. And it's actually the controller that we want. Can't really see the controller for the neck here. Right, so see if I can type in neck and motion system. I think this is it. Yeah, there we go, so there's the neck. Pretty good. There's a little bit of pinching here, so I'll go ahead and keyframe this. And that way. And same with the head. Let's just keyframe that. You can see how the head is actually gone really distorted there. Tells me there's some skin weights distributed wrongly. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so let's look at the neck first. So we'll just get rid of these, and neck and head is what we're going to work on. So we've got the neck. Go to our paint. And we can see how the neck is actually having a lot of influence over the head. Make the brush small. And let's just deliberately paint this side of the neck with a good bit of value. Okay, and I'm just going to use mirror right away to get that on the other side, and also use control to unpaint all of this. So I'm going to do replace with 0, because it's going to be faster. Right, I'm also doing screen. Yeah, it's a bit slower. Let's try volume. Yeah, it's a little bit slower. I still like using surface. If you want, you can select vertices as well. So for that, you would go to vertex, choose a bunch of vertices. Now I like the lasso select here. This one. And choose a bunch like that. Okay, and then go back into paint. And you're in replace mode 0 and click flood. It's only going to affect those, but you get problems, right, if there's some split verts or something. So I don't always recommend this. I think there's some split verts here. So let's just go to vertex and just click somewhere in space to unselect those. Back to object mode, back to paint. So we'll just do it this way. Okay, I'm just going to do mostly one side. I think it will mirror okay. We'll soon find out. So that's the neck. Let's see, mirror. And there we go. So let's just paint these out. Right, let's check the keyframes there. You can see the neck is a bit too strong when it rotates. Right, it's really moving. So I'm just going to choose that neck joint, and I'm going to go to paint and smooth and flood. Right, I'm just going to click this a few times. Okay, and I can actually use chest here as well and let the chest have some influence. So I'll just do flood for that. But bear in mind, when you use flood, it's going to actually affect everything. So I'm just going to use the painting and smooth this out. Like so. You can see how when I use smooth, it's going to distribute back to any known joints. In this case, either the head or the chest will be most dominant there. Let's go to the head. I'm going to add a whole lot of weight to this face to make sure it's not going to deform any weird way. So I just need to do one side because I'm going to use mirror. Right, go ahead and use mirror. And that should have painted all that. We still got a bit of a weird twist on the neck, which I think is a bit too dramatic. So I'm going to go to the chest here and smooth that out. And I can even go to paint and add a little bit, as if to let the chest be more in command of what's going on up here. You can also mess with the scapula or clavicles or shoulders or whatever you've got. Right, so I can type in scap and I'll get the scapulas, and I'll let them also have a little bit of influence here. Notice I'm always working on this side of the mesh. You can see it's not letting me paint here because there's no weight at all on this part. Right, so I just need to replace with some weight. Okay, and then smooth it out. Do mirror, and you can see how that's fixed a bit more. That's a bit nicer. Okay, let's have a look at the back. Oh, there's a whole lot of movement here with the head by the looks of it. The head, I think, is moving this, so I'm just going to do paint, add, but hold down control, and it's actually going to take that away. Let's assume it's a neck then. Okay, yeah. So you can either paint weights away or go to the joint you want to hold it, like the chest, and add weight to that part. And there we go. So that's pretty much the process. You can fine tune it as much as you like. So I recommend doing some like different animation tests. So I'll choose all the controllers here, shift drag over and delete. And let's go to frame 20 and do some crazy poses. You can even do some mock animations. So I could do like a kick, for example, by rotating this. Now I can see the foot is actually, ooh, what's going on there? The foot itself is a little bit bendy. Okay, you can actually take this and move it around here, and I don't know if you can, yeah, you can directly influence these. Okay, I don't know what that is, to be honest. Oh, you can see it's the knee controller gone a bit weird. It's gone way up there. I don't know when that happened. Control rig can be a little bit buggy sometimes. It might just be a display thing because it should be fine. Let's change this to 0 and back to 10. See how that just sort of fixed itself. And okay, that's weird. It's not letting me move the pole vectors. Never seen that before. So it's kind of locked. It's locked up these values. Not sure why. But yeah, that's very unusual behavior. You can see this is the right behavior here, but this one is going a bit nuts. So I've probably done something earlier, like undo. When you undo with the fit mode on, you have to be very careful about what you're doing. Now, not all is lost because I've already got this guy skin weight painted, right? I've just saved it there. But I just want to show you that you can actually go back, right? I can do toggle advanced skeleton. I can actually delete the advanced skeleton completely, right? And then rebuild it. Right, and I've lost my skin weights, but you can always like save your skin weights and load them back in. So if I did actually save them, which you can do here, export weight maps and import them. So if I go back to the previous file, this is a good thing about saving with increment. Okay, so in fact 13 is the one, so I'll just load 13 back up. Okay, that might just be a case of reopening Maya as well. Let's try that. Let's close it. Don't save. But I just want to show you, if you do come into like this kind of problem, then there's ways to fix it. Okay, let's open that recent file. Let's see if it's fixed itself. Nope, it's still weird. Okay, so we can go to the character here and make sure you're on rigging and skin, and you want to export your weight maps. Okay, you can choose the map size. I recommend doing like a higher resolution or something. Okay, whatever, and then export that. Okay, so we'll go and click on the A again, and we're going to toggle the advanced skeleton, and delete the advanced skeleton completely and rebuild it. Now once it's rebuilt, I'm actually just going to test this. You can see it's fixed now. Okay, so let's choose our mesh and go to skin and import our weight maps. Now it says you need to basically choose the mesh, I think. So select deform joints, choose the mesh, and import. Okay, maybe we missed that step first. Right, let's go back again. Let's go to that same file. So this is the one with the skin weights. So let's choose the deform joints. Let's actually unhide them just to make sure it's choosing them. So we can show them there. And then choose the mesh, skin, export weight maps. Okay, and let's go to the advanced skeleton, toggle it, delete it, and build it again. Let's select the deform joints, so we can hide everything else. Basically all of this we want. Skin, import weights. Okay, we're getting a problem with that. No skins were selected. I think what we need to do first is actually bind this. That makes sense. So we want to select the deform joints. Okay, choose the mesh and skin and do bind skin. It doesn't really matter the settings here. Right, I'm just going to show the controllers here. Show the motion system. Move this up. We can see it's skinned. In fact, it looks like it's already loaded those weights correctly, unless I've just been really fluky with it. But yeah, it looks like it's loaded either way, or remembered them somehow. But it just goes to show you can really reload the weight map. Let's actually see if it really has. Yeah, I think it has done, but I've just noticed something else, like this joint pulling here. So we can fix that. I'm wondering if, so let's just keyframe that, move it to 20 and keyframe it there. I'm wondering if I load the skin weights. I'll fix that, so let's do import. Whoa, okay. Yep, you can see it's fixed it. That was a very interesting little interaction there. So yeah, loading the skin weights actually helped. Right, we've got our old weights back. Yeah, this is much nicer. That was actually a good approximate first skinning there. Okay, so I think everything is good. Ready for animation. So as I was saying, we want to do some crazy poses. So let's select the motion system. So I'm going to hide the joints and just put this into reference mode, choose all the controllers, press S to keyframe those, and you can see where to get the arm moving up. Let's delete everything there, keep that first frame, and Control Alt S. So now I've got a cleaner save file. We don't have the same problem with this here. So that's the beauty of Control Rig. You can see that what these actually do is they do this. Right, so let's strike some crazy poses. So let's go to frame 20 and the guy down here. Let's bring that. Let's see if I can get him to stand up on his the ball of his foot a bit. So there's different ways to do this. We can use the roll or anything here. So if you click roll and middle mouse drag, we can get this kind of thing happening. That's actually not too bad. There's a bit of deformation in here that I don't actually like, that I can fix, right? There's no way you do this with your foot anyway, right? You're more likely to do that. But we can definitely fix the skin weights, run a bit there. Now I'm just going to click this one and do the same thing, do a little roll on it. Right, just a bit there, and see if I can strengthen this a little bit more, just a little bit. Okay, there's some weights here that could be better, but I think they're good enough. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the mesh, and you can see how we lost all the information here, but there's no problem with that. Just go to frame 0. I always say go to frame 0, it's just to be in the safe side. Okay, and then click initialize skinning layers. That'll basically just put all the skinning back into the system for you, right? So everything's still the same. This is always the ugly part. You can't really fix that without a lot of blend corrective shapes and things and more joints to fix these things, but for a simple game character it's fine. You can always sculpt these things out if you just want to pose for a character, you just want it to be in a better position for some concept art or something, or showing off in a folio. Right, so we've got that there, and I want to fix the paint here, so I'm just going to hide the motion system just because it's kind of in the way, so we'll just do hide. So that's down in display, by the way, just in case you're wondering, but it's easy to see where it is. Right, so what we're going to do is look for the foot. The foot is actually called ankle, right? And then below ankle is actually called ball or something. Let me just check to see. So root, hip, knee, ankle, heel, and toes, right? Don't ask me why the names are that way, but you get used to them. Let's say ankle R. Let's do some paint. Let's change this back to the grayscale. And you can see how that ankle has actually got influence over a whole lot of stuff up here. Let's get rid of that. Right, we want this to be quite tight. And then more on the ankle. So it's from the ankle down to this point, right? Fix all that to get the volume back. Tiny bit of smoothing. Right, and then the toes, or we can do heel should be coming up. I don't know why heel's not come up. Sometimes if it doesn't come up, it tells me that it's not actually in the influence list. So usually it'd be grayed out, right? But to fix that, I just want to make sure that the heel is actually in there. So I'm just going to choose the mesh and choose this heel. In fact, yes. Oh, this is the wrong. It's the deformation system we want. Okay, maybe it's called something different. And knee, ankle, toes. Okay, right. So that's the hierarchy. It is there. It's just called toes. Right. So paint. So we want ankle and toes. Right. So we got toes R. You can see there's some influence there. Let's move to that keyframe. Paint all this out. We don't want the toes to influence way up here. Right, you can see just painting them out is already fixing retaining the volume here. Then I'll just paint some of this back in. Simple as that. Let's get it to the other side. Magic mirror. Boom. Right, so that's much better shape there. Okay, and anything else you want to fix, you know, put a pose in there and think about it and then go for it. So this is the hip R, and I wanted to see if I can get some volume back here. Maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, this bit here is the always the ugly bit. Right, I'm going to paint some of this out. Some of this out. I'm going to go to hip L and actually paint it out here, because I think this, you see this hip is actually got some grey here, which is somewhat affecting it, and the mirror wasn't really helping me. So this is where, after you've done all your magic mirror stuff, just start to fine tune it manually. Even if it's not symmetrically perfect, it's still going to be better, right? You can see what happens if you add an influence or take an influence away, and so on, right? Okay, hit R, just make sure the same deal, take away some of these weights here, smooth it out a bit where it changes too dramatically. It's already fixing some of the issues I saw where the volume just looked a bit bad. So it's good to paint it out and then smooth it back in, because you'll never get it absolutely perfect, and you just want that weight to be distributed nicely. So in this case I'm going to need a little bit of the root as well, and you can see the root's got influence down here. Maybe I don't want that. Up here and here, it's maybe a bit too far. And see how it's very abrupt now, so I'm going to smooth, just round about that. Let's bring it back up to this pose so I can see the symmetry a bit better. So I'm using a combination of control, take away, shift to smooth, and then just clicking on its own to add, right? If it's really extreme, just do a little smooth on it. As I say, this bit's never going to be perfect, right? You maybe don't want all of this, so whilst on the root, just smooth it out. Just let it be. As long as the shape is generally good from most angles, then you know you get away with it. Well, it's going to be in motion most of the time as well, right? It's going to be moving. Like this volume here, I don't like the gap that it's making. This gap is very unrealistic, so I'm going to go to the hip R and just make sure I've got influence here, and same on hip L. You see I'm not really using mirror as much now, but let's just check. See, that's already better. I want it to crash through a bit. I don't want it to see a gap. Right, a little bit smooth between. But it's nice to work in asymmetry as well, just to get exactly what you want and switch between. So just that, having that pose in place has helped me fix some things. So I can carry on making poses and fixing things and everything like that. Now, let's say we're happy with the fully skinned character, and we want to export this into like a game engine. When there is options, right? There's FBX export, which will be ideal for Unity. There's mannequin export for Unreal. I can even export the control rig that it creates, and you can export even with the current hierarchy on the mesh. Just choose the deform joints and the mesh itself, and it will generally work. Let's just check a few more of the control weights. I just want to the skin weights. I just want to check that everything is good. So I'm going to show the motion system. I just want to show you the finger curl that we saw at the start, because I think this is super cool. So if you click on spread and middle mouse, you can see that, and you can see actually how it's pulling this finger, because there's some weight from these joints on these verts, right? It's not a lot to worry about, but you might want to fix that. Okay, make sure you go to get a keyframe when you do this, and I'm just going to choose everything and delete this. Okay, so let's click on that and go to frame 10, click on spread, middle mouse and drag to the right, and frame 20, drag it back or type in 0. Okay, then I'm going to go to cup, do a little value here and move that, and just check the shape that's making, right, and move it back to 0. Now if you don't want to move it back to 0 manually, if you click on the first frame, then middle mouse click, it won't change anything, but if you press S, it's now keyframed what you saw there as a keyframe, and you can get back to there. Let me do that again because it's a pretty cool feature. So let's take all these indexes here. Let's go to frame 45 and press S, and 55 and middle mouse and drag. Okay, we can set all these values to that. Okay, so it goes from 45 to 55. Now if we're on, let's just say frame 0, middle mouse click, nothing changes, right? If I just click, it's going to be whatever the last keyframe was, but if I'm on here and a middle mouse click, or wherever I'm, right, if I'm here, middle mouse click, it's going to keep that pose, and I can keyframe it, whatever I've got selected. Okay, so middle mouse click, and then press S. And I can get back to that pose. It's quite nice. So maybe I don't want that thumb curl so early as well. So I'm going to click there, click on thumb curl, and I'm going to drag this up a bit later so that the fingers curl, then the thumb curls. Right, fingers first, then the thumb will come second. Let's just drag these all the way up. It's interesting. So it never actually did what I want because I think I don't have something selected, but anyway, thumb curl, surprised this isn't shown that as a keyframe correctly. Just seems to be moving them all. I think it's because the way this works, it's universal for all of them. So we'd have to do that manually. We'd have to do thumb curl. Even if I delete these, curious. Yeah, we lose everything. Oh well. So the way I do that is to just choose these. Go here, middle mouse, and drag to there. Okay, and then thumb curl. Just give it a little bit there, and then drag it. Okay. Yeah, hopefully that taught you something. Maybe it just confused you. But anyway, that's it. Okay, everything's kind of good. I'm not too worried about the poor skin weights on the fingers that much. I think they're good enough for testing and stuff. And yeah, everything seems okay to me. I think you can also actually control these as well. You can rotate them, so you can fine tune. If I did want this to be a tighter fist, I can still move these together. Right, any of those joints, I can move them. See how that slides into place there. So it's really powerful, a really powerful rig. This here, it gives us a little bit of hip movement. Again, if we use this, we can change this to 10 and use IK control. Now the beauty of the control rig is if we choose everything, oh, let's put that back on reference. If we choose everything, the whole motion system, and we want to get things back at frame 0, you can actually just put in 0 into everything, and it'll reset it. Right, I've already got it all keyframed at frame 1, which is clever. But let's just say accidentally move frame 1 all over the place like this. Just go here and just type in 0. I'll get everything back. Right. Okay, let's talk about exporting to a game engine. So I'm just going to pause the video and set up Unreal. Okay, so I'm just making a new UE5 project. It's going to be a third-person project under Games, Blueprint, and everything here. And I've just called it Advanced Skeleton Rig UE. Okay, so we've got our Unreal Engine project here, and if we play it, it'll give us the character we can use to run around. And we want to get our character in there. So let's go back to Maya and let's have a look at our options. So what you want to do is go down to export and do mannequin export, and I usually have this checked scale to match mannequin. You can play with this to see if it's better if you have it on or off, but I'm going to change this to Mani UE5, and I think we should be good with that. Okay, so it says at the bottom, Unreal Mannequin export when important into Unreal sets skeleton to SK Mannequin. Okay, we'll see if that's true. So I'm going to make a new folder under characters. And import you say I've got a very messy desktop, but ignore that. Let's go for export SK character, and it says we have to choose SK mannequin. Okay, so let's go for it, and I think everything else is fine. Let's just try it. You might be unlucky here. Sometimes it's hit or miss if this works. Fingers crossed. Okay, this is fine. I think these are normal things that we see. Okay, so with that done, you want to save this and navigate to the blueprints of the mannequin now. I think that's actually in here. Okay, and double click on this and go to the mesh for your character and find your character. Okay, compile, save, close that, and then play. And there you go. We got a semi-naked guy running around Unreal Engine. Okay, his proportions are a little bit weird. I think this is only because he is posed like the female or the Unreal mannequin character. This is one of the issues that you might get. There's also a little bit of skin weight issue around about the arms because there's more joints in this skeletal rig, so it does some conversions, I suppose, between the skin weights, between things, the pose and everything, but I think it's a strong start. And the cool thing is you can actually import into Maya the one that it generated. So let me just save this and let's do a new scene and import desktop, export this one. Okay, bear in mind ZBrush works in Z up, so just be mindful of that. But this looks fine, it's in a Y up axis, but you can see all the different joints that have been added to this. So you might want to play with this and see and make sure it's doing everything that you want just by like rotating joints and stuff like that. Okay, I mean most of this looks good. I'm assuming most of this looks good, sorry, but it's only when you start to like rotate everything, you know, what do you see that's wrong with the clavicles? If you move the clavicles, if you move the upper arm, you're getting these unwanted sort of crashing. And here, I think it should still have the texture, yeah. Okay, so it's pulling some verts here. So we can once again choose the mesh and initialize our skinning layers and actually start to fix some things. But we don't have the control rig anymore, which might be a little bit tricky. But we can still definitely keyframe some things. So if you've got a joint select, press S, go to frame 20 and rotate, press S. Now you've got a way of checking that. Okay, and that joint is upper arm L, so let's choose the mesh and type in upper arm L. You can see there's a whole lot of things without skin weights. If they're grey, it means there's no skin weight on it. Okay, so we'll click paint, and we can scrub this timeline to see it's actually pulling all these verts. So make the brush small, paint them out, smooth them up a bit, right, and we can fix some of this stuff. Now I just want to show you that we're deliberately gonna do something here, right? I'm just gonna add some weight just in here, right? I just want to show you that this is gonna update in Unreal, okay, because I've never done this before. Okay, so we're gonna choose everything, right? That's everything, but let's also do select hierarchy just to make sure it's got all of this, right? Bear with me here, and export selection, and we're going to look for our exported file. I'm going to save it as a different file name, so I'm just going to call it underscore fixed, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, I'm just going to do it with all the default settings just to see if it will work. I'm going to go into Unreal. I'm going to choose my advanced rig demo character and re-import with new file. Right, I'm going to choose fixed, and we might get issues. Oh, it says it's done it. Okay, so now we're going to play, and we should get, there we go, little hole in there because the arm is down, but it just shows you how easy it is to fix stuff. So I think it's a little bit better on, maybe not. It's a case of just trying loads of stuff. I don't know if it's actually better. It's gave him this kind of moob at the arm, but you get the idea of how easy it could be to work on a character. Now, one little more thing I want to cover. A lot of people they'll dress their character, but they'll have meshes clipping through, and it can be super annoying because you're trying to get rid of all the clipping between different layers of clothes, or the skin poking through a jacket or something like that. Now, if you do have a jacket, you can skin it all the same, combine the meshes, skin it all that way, and then I recommend just isolate the mesh that you want to edit. As in, you want to delete faces that you don't see anymore because you've got a jacket over or something. Click this little icon here. You'll go into isolate, so only show you that mesh. Choose the faces. Okay, so we've got a bunch of faces selected there. Just press delete. You can delete faces. It should let me do it. Maybe they're not selected. Okay, so deleted a whole bunch of faces there, and everything's still good, right? Everything's the same. Everything still works. We can do some radical weird changes to this guy. Right, I'm just going to delete whole bunches of stuff. Just imagine, you know, there's clothes over here. We don't need to see this mesh anymore. Whatever, right? He's a broken man. Okay, and whatever, his hand as well. Go for it. Right, so we're just going to go back to object mode. It's going to be our guy. Come out of isolate and choose everything. Just select the hierarchy as well, just to be sure. Export selection, overwrite our fixed guy. He's not very fixed, is he? Okay, and then back into Unreal. Since the last file we got, you can actually see its source file at the bottom there. It says SK character fix. We can just do re-import. failed to re-import. Let's just save them first. Let's do re-import with new file. In fact, I think maybe it was still saving. Let's just do re-import with new file. Okay, it didn't like it that time. It's unusual. Maybe it just doesn't like the vert order or something. So let's save this as something different. I think maybe, I'm just wondering if I missed something. I don't think so. So export selection, character, let's call him broken. Maybe it really is broken. So let's see. Right, so import broken guy. Make sure we choose SK mannequin and import. Okay, interesting why it kind of looks like this. Ooh, and the arm is up. Okay, there's a few, I think there's a few problems with it, and it only brought in the animation sequence. So I don't think that worked as well as intended with the meshes, the mesh deleted like that. But let's just try that again. Let's just go to a new scene, because I maybe think I did something wrong. So let's try our character brought in. I think I deleted something else by accident, to be honest. Let's bring the mesh out of there. Let's put the texture on. Choose the mesh. Yeah, I think I deleted some bones by accident or something. Right. Let's go to faces. Let's just delete. We keep taking chunks out of his hip for some reason, but I'm just going to delete a few of these faces at random. Right. Let's see now. Object mode. Choose the root. Choose the geometry. Select the hierarchy. Just make sure it's got all of that. Export selection. Broken man. Okay, and back in here, let's just delete that, we don't need it. I'm going to re-import a new file. Let's try broken. Yeah, okay, well that's that test. I thought it would work, but also had my doubts. Yeah, failed to import, doesn't like it. I think it's just one of those things. You can also use an alpha cutout map if you want to hide parts, so you do a black and white texture, white where you want parts to be seen and black where you want bits to be hidden. But I was kind of hoping that would work. It might work another way if I import with a completely different file. Let's try a different file name. Broken 2. I'm just curious to see if this will actually work. Okay, import broken 2. It might just be referencing, like failed to import, would create as is, see input log. So I think something's happened to the mannequin, can't import, no mesh is found or animation track. Okay, I think yeah, I think I'm not sure. Oh, maybe it's because I'm in this mode. Okay, let's try this again. Select hierarchy, export selection, broken 3. I think he really is broken though. I'm convinced it should work, that's why I'm being so persistent. Hopefully you learn the art of persistence through what I'm doing here. Yeah. Candidate import type, no mesh is found or animation track. Final test, we just choose the mesh itself. I'm going to call this test. Right. Animation is checked and everything. Just want to see if it comes in with all the joints. It should still come in regardless of needing to match anything. So yeah, there's definitely something wrong now that that's been done. Might have to delete by type non-deformer history, right? Maybe. So let's just make sure he's still deforming. Yep. Let's try that. Select hierarchy. Export selection. Let's call that test again. This will be the last thing I try. And here we go. So the deformer history, right? So I'm going to choose SK mannequin and import that. Now, in fact, instead of doing this, I'm going to cancel that. It's going to re-import a new file and choose test. There we go. Right, so it does work. So now we've got some holes in our guy. Yeah, and you can go as far as you want with that. You can delete whole pieces of it. Just remember, so isolate, choose some faces. Let's delete a whole chunk here. Imagine he's got big trousers on and yeah, and a jacket, right? Let's just do all that. So the only bits you see are these, right? You got a big collar, you got big cuffs down here, you got, you know, big baggy trousers, right? And that's all you want to see of your character's body. So let's go with object mode. Make sure you delete by type non-deformer history, not history, right? Because we want it to be anything that's not deformer. That way the rig itself stays intact. So we want to choose everything. Let's come out of isolate, choose everything, select the hierarchy just to make sure we got everything there. Export selection, test, overwrite that. Back in here and just do re-import. Boom. Play it. And there we go. Invisible Man, sort of. Kind of looks cool. It's like Rayman. Well, that's it for this video. It's a very similar thing if you're using UE4. You just choose the export to be UE4 mannequin. You probably saw that earlier in the video. You get the options here for, well, it's not showing me now, but if you do this, you can see you can get the mannequin UE4, Quinn UE5, Mana UE5, and you should choose the most appropriate one, and you're all good. Thanks for watching this tutorial. I hope it's helpful, and yeah, feel free to comment or ask any questions and I'll try and cover them. Thanks for watching. Bye.